Fellas, AC here. As promised, I'm back with my second list. Requested video, most complimented or compliment gods. This time, niche. So, before I proceed, what is niche? Now, in my designer list, I included fragrances by Mancera. I included fragrances by Acqua di Parma. So here is my way to qualify niche fragrances. Number one is distribution network. Niche fragrances normally are very hard to get hold of, but with advent of internet, it's become easier. But still, they're so rarely known that people really don't know about them, really. So that's my number one criteria. Number two, niche fragrances normally are fragrances which are off the beaten track. So they don't smell like designer fragrances. They mostly are very creative and they're quite complex, right? That's my second criteria. And third, obviously, with complexity and with lower distribution network comes the higher price point. Obviously, if you're going to make a fragrance which is going to smell very different, very creative, evolves a lot, you're going to need a lot of ingredients. Those ingredients will have to be natural or very high quality. If they're synthetic, and you will not be able to market and sell them like the major brands. Yeah. Hence, those are the three criteria I use. Now, Mancera. Mancera fragrances are so widely available. This was not the case 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but they are so widely available. And they're linear. Most of Mancera fragrances that I own, and I own quite a few, are linear. And their price point, they're priced like a high-end designer. Similarly, there are other houses as well. Acqua di Parma, very high quality juices, but these ones, the Blue Mediterraneo line or the Acqua di Parma Colonia line, they smell like designers. Very high quality, very easily available. 15 years ago when I was getting into real, exploration mode, it was very hard to get hold of Acqua di Parma. I could only see them in Selfridges or Harrods or London high street shops. They were not available in smaller towns and cities, even in the UK. With the internet, available easily. And the price point, they're very affordable. I mean, this bottle here is a 75ml bottle. I got mine for, I think, £60. Yeah, discounted obviously. So that's the point I wanted to make. This list, as you know, is of niche fragrances that actually are compliment getters or have gotten me compliments. Now with niche, most of the niches that I like, and 60% of my collection is niche, it's very hard to get compliments. Reason, they are meant to smell different, right? They're meant to be complex. Let's take Amouages, for example. They're absolutely stunning fragrances, but they don't get you compliments. Very hard to get compliments because it's so different. Most of the time you will not get a compliment. You'll probably get a weird sort of a look by saying, how can you call this a fragrance? Again, there are other niche fragrances which are meant to get you compliments, like the Creeds, the Tom Fords, the Killians. They are manufactured to appeal to the masses. Yeah? They don't go down the route of creating esoteric fragrances, concepts which will get people confused. They're just for the connoisseurs. So, this list doesn't have a single Creed, and it doesn't have a single Tom Ford. Reason being, I want to give you more options. So let's get started, fellas. I've got a beautiful list for you. Let's start with a fragrance, a niche fragrance, which is actually designed to please the masses. It gets absolutely everyone talking, when they smell you. It's my personal favorite as well. Byredo Bal de Afrique. Fellas, this fragrance is enjoyed by not only me when I'm wearing it, it's also enjoyed by people who smell it on me, because this has been created to be an absolutely pleasant fragrance. The kind of compliments I get with this is people always are very inquisitive, but they are very ashamed to ask, especially here in the UK. So they just go through the different channels. For example, they find a friend of yours and they, just ask him what he's wearing. I was once wearing this in a wedding, summer wedding, and somebody came and approached me and said, my mate, and he says, that lady over there, she really wants to know what you're wearing, your cologne. And I told her that. This fragrance has this quality. It is basically a fruity vetiver, and it's got some very interesting notes of Tabac. So it creates this amazing concept and the fragrance comes off smelling an absolute crowd pleaser. Beautiful for work, beautiful for daytime. You can wear this in evening time as well, but I wear this daytime, sunny day. It's such a gorgeous fragrance. You know, if you have a super personality, pleasant personality, this is the fragrance that you need to try out and see if it works for you. It really works for me, guys. And people love having me around them if I'm wearing this or when I'm wearing this. It's a beautiful, beautiful vetiver, fruity vetiver. Stunning, actually. So there you go. That's my first. Second on my list is a fragrance which people don't rate very highly. Yeah, and this goes back to the niche conversation. It's actually an Acqua di Parma, but it's in this list. Why? Because it's a different line from the Acqua di Parma. These brown bottles are, I think, called the Essentials collection, and the price point from the normal Acqua di Parma is probably 3 times. You know, this is minimum 150. So these fragrances in brown bottles from Acqua di Parma are stunning, simply stunning. I've got 3 of them, and this one is called Quercia. Quercia in Italian means oak. And this fragrance, to be quite honest, is very, very likable. Amazingly likable and very creative. Excuse me. This basically starts off smelling like a very lemony green Irish tweed, and then goes into the dry down and brings in other facets. For example, there's a superbly executed oak moss, yeah, with fantastically earthy patchouli. I love this fragrance, guys. And when my mate smelt it and I sprayed it on his wrist as well, he just could not stop smelling his wrist. He just kept doing this. And all sorts of things came to his mind. He said, I can smell as if I'm sitting in a beautiful mint garden. Yeah? The reason he kept saying it's a mint garden is because how it smells, you know, it just conjures up a dream of a minty, lemony, beautiful, effervescent, bright green scent. And which it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a green scent. But there's no mint here. But people do smell as if they're smelling something very beautiful, green, minty, lemony, fantastic scent. Yeah? Compliments, glow. But normally people will give you a very appreciative look. I wear this to work, I've worn this to weddings, I've worn this to social occasions, and it just smells so regal, you know? You just pass them and they just go, just like Green Irish Tweed, you know? Green Irish Tweed is supposed to be the classiest, manliest fragrance around by Creed. Exactly that. This is a beautiful, beautiful, manly, classy, all-weather scent. I love to wear this in every weather, but summertime, it smells special. Yeah. Quercia, Acqua di Parma, different line though, Essentials line. Next on my list is a fragrance which I think is just stunning, doesn't get a lot of talk, and it is by Roja. This fragrance is a decant. I've used 2 decants now, and I think I'll have to pull the trigger on this one. This is called Oligarch. I've done a full review. In fact, my review is the exclusive review on YouTube. Do check it out. Oligarch is a fragrance which actually smells like an oligarch. You know, it is one of the most complex, fruity fragrances I have got in my collection. The moment you apply it, you feel special. It's as simple as that. And the most memorable experience I've had is an absolutely stunning woman in one of the conferences I was attending. She just absolutely adored having me around her. You know, I was sitting in the same table and she was, you know, very interested in speaking to me. And it was very obvious that she was completely, you know, obviously my personality and the way I spoke, but the scent, you could see that I just went up a few notches, you know, in her viewpoint, and she was stunning. She was a lady with a brain, beautiful, beautiful expressions on her face, and I've seen that again and again with people. When you walk wearing Oligarch next to people or in a group of people, they automatically give you a look, and that look is of respect, and you feel that the fragrance has to do something with it. Yeah, it's a stunning fragrance. It uses fruity notes. It uses juniper berries beautifully, and it uses bergamot, lemon. It's a stunner. It's got 25 notes. It's a very complex fragrance, but focuses on fruits. It's what you call a dry chypre, but emphasis is on fruits. Do check my detailed review. You'll get a lot of views on this. I mean, you'll get a lot of opinion on this. Fabulous, fabulous fragrance. Next on my list is equally a simply stunning fragrance. It has got me compliments over and over. Many years. I've owned this for many years. Tabac Rouge by Phaedon. As the name says, Tabac and Rouge, it's supposed to replicate a Turkish smoking salon. So it's supposed to have a note of tobacco. There isn't. But if you were to ask me to recommend to you a very stylish, a very lush fragrance, not lush, stylish and shiny, radiating fragrance, I'd recommend two fragrances. One would be Reflection Man and the other would be Tabac Rouge. It's such a stylish fragrance, start to finish. It's a long-lasting, great. In fact, performance on all these are just off the charts. Apart from Bal d'Afrique, which is about 6 hours. So Tabac Rouge, it hasn't got the note of tobacco, but it smells like tobacco vanille. It's compared to tobacco vanille. I think they are two different scents. Basically, it's a very bright, very stylish, very radiant fragrance because it uses ginger, it uses honey, it uses cinnamon, it's got a note of musk. Just stunning, guys. Tabac Rouge is, in my books, an absolute fantastic compliment getter. Try and sample this. You will not regret it. In fact, you'll end up buying a bottle. It's so good. So, next on my list is a fragrance which is not only stylish like Tabac Rouge, not only radiant like Reflection Man, but it's also simply gorgeous. It's by Olfactive Studios and it's called Chambre Noire. Guys, this fragrance uses and reminds me of three of my favorite notes. So it uses leather, it uses plum, and it uses patchouli. And you know, every single one of those notes, there are many other notes, they remind me of a certain fragrance. So the leather in this fragrance reminds me of the leather of one of my absolute favorite leather scents. 1740 by Histories de Parfum. Yeah, the leather on this one is a leather to die for. I'm a lover of leather and tobacco. This leather is just fantastic. Chambre Noire brings in that leather. Then it has got this amazingly dense, rich, full of gravity patchouli. And that patchouli reminds me of patchouli from the same house called Patchouli Noir. Just stunning. Is it Noir patchouli? Patchouli Noir. I can't remember because I don't have a full bottle. I've sampled it by Histories de Parfum. It reminds me of the patchouli. And then there's this amazingly lush, full-bodied plum. I can't tell you how beautiful this fragrance is. And this is basically, it's got tremendous performance, you know. So this is basically an evening scent, which I have worn to special occasions, close encounter situations. And, you know, women just get into one of those modes when they appreciate something in you, but the effect is much larger. They appreciate everything in you. This fragrance puts women in the mood to, if you're really, you know, the part, they go for it. They really, really appreciate everything about you. Chambre Noire is one of those fragrances that has that effect on amazingly pretty women, you know, when they smell this on you. It's a fantastic date night, close encounter, evening scent. Yeah, superb. I can vouch for it. It's stunning. Next on my list is a fragrance which I have worn to special occasions only, like weddings, evening functions, Christmas parties, and it's a stunner. It's by Histories de Parfum and it's called Rare Fidelis. My word, this is an oud-based fragrance, and the kind of oud used here is Laotian oud, but they have actually topped it up with a beautiful note of raspberry and coffee, and the effect is just simply glamorous. If you're looking for a very glamorous scent to wear to evening occasions, and I've worn this, as I said, to Christmas parties and weddings and stuff like that, and only wore it a few times. This is a one spray fragrance, extremely strong. And only once there was a lady who was speaking to me in a Christmas party, and she just told me once after a a little bit of conversation, she said to me, "What is that fragrance that you're wearing?" And I told her, and she's in the know. And she said, "I can't believe oud smells this gorgeous." I said, "Well, you ought to try oud. A lot of people have a perception about oud. I'm telling you, there's no nastiness in this oud. It may start a little bit harsh, but it just turns into this amazingly gorgeous fragrance, extremely glamorous. One word for it, glamorous. Yeah. Evening scent. Next on my list is a fragrance which is hard to describe. I find it very hard to describe, but I can tell you the effect it has on people. People just simply think that you're loaded with money. Yeah. This is Roja's Enigma Man. This fragrance is an absolute legend. This hasn't got as many notes as Oligarch, but it just has these notes which have an interplay, which play with each other. It comes across when you initially spray it as a grape soda. Then it brings in ginger, and it brings in tobacco. There's so much going on in this fragrance. But one thing is stable, and one thing is for sure, is it just ends up smelling extremely opulent and rich. Yeah? From start to finish. All you need is a couple of sprays, and that's it. I'd wear this to evening or special occasions, yeah, or even by yourself. But when people smell it off you, they have to react to it because it's just so beautiful. It's just so gorgeous. People have to react. And this is a fragrance which has been crafted with two things in mind. Creativity, the satisfaction of wearing a niche fragrance, and totally being humbled by it. Because as I said, it's a magnum opus. And the other one is to affect other people who smell this of you. The effect it has on people is a sobering effect. You know, the kind of effect when you read a fantastic book or watch an amazing movie, you're just in awe of that fragrance. Enigma is such fragrance. It just gets people, people's attention and their appreciative looks, and they're just completely, wow, what is that? That's Enigma. Yeah. So, well, I don't have to say anything about Enigma. Enigma speaks for itself. The moment you smell it, you will know that it's an absolute, blockbuster. Next on my list is a fragrance by a house which just is a stunning house. It creates superb creative fragrances. Serge Lutens, and the name of the fragrance is Fille or Fille, whatever. I don't know how to spell it, how to pronounce it, but this basically translates to a lady, Fille, in thorns. Yeah. Now this is one of the most creative fragrances, but when I started getting compliments of this last winter, I realized that I underestimated how this becomes a very pleasant crowd pleaser. Now, what does it have? It has pine, it has fir, it has incense, it has dry fruits, it has bay leaves, So you can imagine, right? It is a winter-autumn scent, and when you wear it in that weather, when people smell it of you, it's got a very comforting effect. So when I started getting compliments on this fragrance, I was wearing it in the winter, and you realize there's the crowd-pleasing fragrances where people can associate with it. And the other end of the spectrum is when people smell fragrances that makes them feel very comfortable, cozy. This is a cozy fragrance, very creative, and smells just stunning. It's really a stunning fragrance. But so are most of the compositions from Serge Lutens. It's a beautiful house, a stunner, Fille. Remember the name? Because you ought to try it. These fragrances are just stunning, simply stunning. Next on my list is a fragrance which kind of always gets me a compliment, or at least a look of respect. And it's from a house which where people don't consider to be a compliment garner, right? Amouage. And the name of the fragrance is Dia Man. Now, all the Amouage fragrances are stunning, right? But one thing they don't do is get you a compliment. And most of the fragrances as well. Most of the classic ones are only fit to be worn during winter months, right? This is one Amouage you can wear any season, any time, night, daytime, just brilliant. And it uses some of the most creative notes. So it has got vetiver, it's got plum, it's got peony, the beautiful flower, it's got incense, it's got cardamom, it's got rosewood. There's complexity here, but it's primarily or predominantly a floral vetiver, right? And when people smell it off you, vetiver scents have this effect. If you have a slightly mature personality with a certain amount of gravitas, vetiver is a very nice note to wear. So I wear this to office, and I also work in different offices. Once I was in a different country and in a different office. I know the area that I sit in, there's a guy who wears these designer fragrances with immense projection, like Bleu de Chanel, Sauvage. He wears those fragrances to office, which is fine. One day, I walked in from the airport directly into the office, and I took my jacket off, hung it on my chair, and I was taking a seat. He looked at me because I was wearing this, and he smelt it. And the look he gave me was of respect, So, yes, you have the Sauvages and the Chanels, Bleu de Chanels of this world, but when it comes to Amouage, Amouage basically says, I'm here too. And when people smell it off you, they give you that look. What a beautiful scent you're wearing. How complex, how lovely. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Amouages. There are 2 Amouages which I wanted to feature in this list, but I thought I'll go with one. The other one was Reflection Man. That's a fantastic compliment getter. Now then, the last fragrance in this list is also one of my absolute compliment garners. One of my favorites, one of the most complex fragrances, and it's from a house that I respect the most. It's a Guerlain. And the name of the fragrance? Tonka Imperiale. This fragrance, guys, with the ladies, this has got the highest amount of what you call success rate. Because when women smell this of you, it's marketed for women. But this is an out and out unisex, leaning towards manliness. Yeah, this fragrance is just simply stunning. When you first spray it, if you go heavy, it starts off smelling like a 70s powerhouse with tons and tons of manly notes like carnation. Yeah, the first fragrance that comes to mind if you spray this heavy is Equipage by Hermes, right? So it's that manly, and then dries down with bitterness of tonka, with vanilla, with incense. This is a simply a stunning masterpiece, which gets very little talk in the Francom. This is Thierry Vass's best work, in my opinion. Tonka Imperiale, success rate, look at that. Success rate with ladies is just stunning because women just love comforting fragrances. I wear this wintertime or cooler weather. They just love comforting fragrances, comforting conversation. And this is such a beautiful ice cracker, if you like. If you're just after compliments, there are many more fragrances. But if you're after an experience, then Tonka Imperiale should be right at the top of your list. It's an experience to wear Tonka Imperiale. Hopefully, you like the list, fellas. And the third part of the series will focus on classics, which will be out soon. Take care. Bye-bye.